Word. All right. Let's get into some Swans.
Yeah.
Swans.
Swans.
Obviously insanely important to all three of us. I didn't even have to wonder. I didn't even have to ask you, guys, like, what is this? Yeah, one of you were just like, how about Children of God? Boom, done.
Yeah.
Okay. I know this is almost kind of like 101 style, but to anyone who's watching this, might be some people who have not fucked with Swans. It's very possible.
Totally.
Bring people up to speed from the early 80s to the 90s, and then broke up, and then from the early 10s to now. Some of the most brutal, negative, and beautiful punishing music ever to be made. New York band, mostly this guy, singer-songwriter Michael Gira. His vision, but I would say guitarist Norman Westberg is his importance in this music should be more recognized, I'd say.
And then Jarboe.
And Jarboe, yeah, let's not diminish Jarboe, especially with the record we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be no way to once we get into it.
No, he especially has opinions.
Okay. Because see, I don't know why I just didn't mention Jarboe.
No.
We should explore. But we should ask ourselves why. We should ask ourselves why.
No. I think that goes too far. It is. You're right to say like it is Gira, right? But I think an important point to say is that like Westberg is there before and also now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like there's only one member who truly has been on so many of these records from both eras. And like Swans is this band, especially looking from like 2025. It's like, oh, there's been a solid run of reunion Swans stuff now. It's not just like, oh, they're a band again and like they're gaining hype and there's this new following. It's like, no, there's kids who have been listening to everything from the reunion onward, and that's just the band they're into.
I know, it's so wild. No, I mean, it's almost been, because their first run was like 82 to 97, and now it's been, the second run was 2010 to now. It's 15 years. It's this, both runs are like almost exactly equal length,
Yeah.
And also, I think none of us were, unless I'm speaking for you, certainly Will and I were not around for that initial run by any means. And I don't know how keen you were on that stuff at the time.
Well, I got into Swans at the very end of their first run, so I never saw them. I mean, so they broke up the first time in 97, and I got into them in like 96 when I was 16. Cool. And so I missed, and I was I was at this I was like into metal already, and but like sort of on like I was into like Neurosis and some of the stuff, and then it's like I was at this party, and just like on this, me and Chuck Stern just on this antisocial level of glazed in the corner, like just on some like we aren't really at this party, we're just smoking weed, and there's this like clearly like 27-year-old guy, absolutely not supposed to be there. He's got a Neubauten tattoo. He's like, yeah, I'm a photographer. I'm like, all right, this is good. But I'm not even thinking like, oh, this is like a child pornographer or something. I'm just thinking like, oh, cool. We'll talk to this guy is more on our wavelength than like his potential victims or whatever. So I was like, what's that tattoo? Like Henry Rollins has that tattoo. It's like, when you meet someone at the perfect moment in your life, like they enter, it was like God was just like, you need this person. And like, we were just talking about music, and he was just like, oh, dude, you're into Neurosis. Like, you got it. And he just went down the list. He was just like, in Godflesh, you get a blah, 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 and Swans. And we were like, I've heard of that shit. He was like, so he was like Children of God. And it was the CD that was Children of God, World of Skin.
Yeah.
That had just come out. And some of that other shit was out of print. Their earlier 90s poppier major label shit was out of print. So like it was actually, I didn't have access to all of it. But anyway, so that was you press play on Children of God, and that's a change. Now that's in your life,
Couple things. First, to say that your boy Chuck, like I met him, right?
Yep, very briefly, yeah.
He passed recently,
He passed a year and a half ago. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. He was a very sweet man when I met him.
He was, yeah. I mean, he's my best friend since we were 13. I mean, it's like, I'm only now beginning to, it's
totally.
Like
yeah, for sure.
Life process. But thank you for
totally.
saying that.
Of course. On the popular thing, it's like, it's funny because like you're right, but then also like Children of God comes out on Caroline, right?
I guess so.
And like Caroline is like also like 50 Cent. And like the Partridge Harold Budd record.
Wait, Caroline put out 50 Cent?
Yeah.
I thought they were just like put out like REM or fucking not REM, like Smashing Pumpkins, right? Like
no. I think there's a 50 Cent record that's on Caroline, I'm pretty sure. And then there's the Partridge Harold Budd, which I'm always obsessed with.
No, people get ready. People get ready.
Yeah, no, it's like it's important to exactly. There we are. That's some of that code switching we were talking about.
Yeah.
But no, that's incredible. I mean, my experience of Swans is to get into that band, like both to get into the stuff from the past and to get into the new stuff that's coming out at basically the exact same time.
Okay, right on.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm getting into the first couple records just as like the first Reunion record comes out. And there is this sort of buzz around like any older punks I'm around when I'm in high school that's like, I don't know about this shit. Like, I don't know about this new stuff at all. And there's definitely tons and tons and tons of guys who like just don't like the Reunion shit at all. But it's really funny to me because it's like, I get it, but there's also like, you listen to Children of God and you're like, it's all there.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's not, this isn't this band that like made some crazy switch up in 2010. This is a band that's off reservation by 1987 for sure.
Yeah, they were evolving the whole time. I mean, I kind of am one of those.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't like the Reunion records, and at this point, they're not Reunion records. It's been 15 years of new shit.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't like them. It's just that it's like somehow the moment is so different for me now that it's like not entering my life, you know. And I also just seeing them live, it was like not. It was sick. It was sick.
Yeah.
But it wasn't one of those it wasn't one of those experiences for me where I was like, you know, changed, you know, as much. But
totally.
Yeah. How'd you get into Swans, Will? What was the entry point?
Yeah, I found out. I'm kind of surprised that I found out about them earlier than Xylon. Apparently, they're the same age. But yeah, no, I got into Swans like at the same time in like middle school when I was getting into like all of like the weird like pig fuck like noise rock bands that were like downstream from like knowing about Nirvana. I was getting into them around the same time as like Big Black, and then finding out about industrial music. But like Swans and like Throb and Gristle, like I was listening to them back like in middle school, but like I would only listen to them in like maybe like, you know, like minute increments because I was still young enough that both of those bands just scared the fucking shit out of me.
Yeah.
But I was able to recognize that it was incredible music.
Yeah.
And then,
You have to be really fucked up to actually like for this music to speak to you on like a deep spiritual level. I mean, I was listening to this shit today and I was like, you have to actually really like love this. You have to be kind of fucked up. Like it's really negative music, man. It's really fucking negative, you know?
Until the stuff right after this.
Yeah, for sure.
You see a lot of like, especially lyrically, he gets a lot lighter post this, but like everything up until Children of God, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's also interesting to me, like in hindsight, because like my trajectory, and we've done this on like our earlier shit, but like my trajectory is like weird in both directions because like I'm growing up on Nurse with Wound and Throbbing Gristle, but like guitar bands that are heavy are hitting me mostly after I'm getting into like post-hardcore and shit.
Yeah.
So like I'm hearing Big Black at the same time I'm hearing Antioch Arrow and Drive Like Jehu, and then I'm hearing Swans, right? Like there's no need, no one culturally is speaking to me and be like, no, you have to hear Swans when I'm just listening to like snotty guitar music.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And it's interesting too, because like you say that you have to be like really fucked up, but like the problem is in hindsight, it's impossible for my ears now not to just be like, damn, those are riffs though. Like
Oh,
even the people who are like listening to Greed and being like, this isn't even music. I'm like, no, this is like blues. Like this is
Well, it is blues. No,
Yeah.
it is. That's actually, yeah, not just that there are bluesy elements, but just in the
No,
sense that it's
that-
raw and like legitimately tormented music. I mean, yeah, I mean, for people who, people are like, new to Swans, it's like this comes out in 1987, right? It's Children of God. So this is like like their 5th record or something, and it's, I mean, I don't think it's my opinion that it's a turning point. I mean, I think it's pretty much
very clear. Yeah.
In fact, it's like, that's one of my favorite things about it is that it's such a turning point that if someone, I had this little scenario run through in my head where I was like, damn, if someone turned on the first track, they could have been like, man, I know how this is going to go.
Right.
And then just turn it the fuck off and are like, oh, I'll just listen to Greed.
Okay. Right.
And then but then like second song and you're like, oh, we're like so far from what I thought this band has been so far.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that. There's 3 or 4 songs across Children of God where it's like, damn, this is like more or less like Swans as they've been operating before.
Yeah.
And then, but it's like a little bit more tuned up. It's a little bit more melodic. The structures are more interesting. But if you just gave someone an EP of those 4 songs, you'd be like, damn, like it's almost just this stuff, but it's getting softer.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. I mean, it's like the sound, but even that stuff that is just like the minimalist pummeling stuff. I mean, the fact to me, and like, I don't want to get too music theory nerd shit about it, but like, I think the guitar, like just harmonically, right? Like Norman Westberg, all of that earlier shit has dissonant, atonal, sour guitar that like roots it in like no wave.
Totally.
It like reads as like New York no wave art rock shit. This stuff, there's like moments of that are super powerful because the most of it is harmonically like minor. It's like minor chords. It's not dissonant, and so it's like, I'm sure they weren't like, we like goth music. I'm sure they find that like a cringe label, but
for sure,
yeah, like if you played Children of God for someone who didn't know Swans, they would definitely think like, oh, this is like gothic music, of some kind. I mean, like with, Jarboe, that's singing, the female, like ethereal voice. I mean,
there's so much of it that reads that way. And then there's also like weird, like one of the things that's most interesting to me is like how much kind of like almost twang. The swagger is coming in. It almost like there's moments where it reminds me of like a slower Mekons or something.
Interesting. All right. I don't really know them that well.
Yeah, well, like it's so much smarter than anything that's ever been like called cowpunk, but like there is elements of that for me where I'm like, oh damn, this is an expansive like kind of like country western. There's like moments of that where
there's a lot of moments,
bigger. It just sounds bigger than even the palette of New York, right?
Yeah. Well, it gets very Nick Cave. I mean, that twangy stuff is where, I mean, I like the thing is though, here's the thing. Swans, right? Like one of my favorite bands, some of the deepest shit to me, but my love of it is uneven. Like I don't like this is not a perfect record. I actually the country-ish twangy elements, I actually don't love that. And Giras,
I fuck with them pretty heavy.
It's cool, but like just his cowboy hat, like I don't know, New York people being into cowboys, it like that's like Aaron Copland or something. Like
but you have to remember he is a West Coast guy. He's like an LA kid.
Yeah. True. He is from LA. No, true. I know. Yeah, he's not like. Yeah, he's not. It's not like if like John Joseph or like Harley or something got into country or whatever.
Although Harley in a cowboy hat would be pretty fucking funny to be honest.
yeah. It's like going to the rodeo over here. Yeah.
I mean, I think that stuff definitely hits for me, and also like I do still see that as even just Jarboe bringing more to the table, and like I mean, like I think this is. I mean, if we're going to skip ahead to like what I mean by like Jarboe, it's impossible to overstate what is happening here because like whether you saying you're not super into some of that stuff, it's like squares even more evenly with you not fucking with the reunion shit so much. I don't know how much you like the 90s stuff, but but there is a sense of, I think there's kind of these people who maybe think that this record sounds, sure, there's the goth rock shit, but even just sounds like neo-folky at times, which like that's gonna come, but that's not what's happening here, not really.
Yeah.
And there is just this weird sense in which like Michael Gira has been alpha widowed by Jarboe in this insane way where it's like you listen to Jarboe's career and she's just exactly who she is wherever she is for the rest of her life. But Swans is like forever. There's just this shadow of her on it.
Right. Okay. Wait. So this is I'm embarrassed. I'm not up.
No,
on
you know
what is it though? Is that what just happened to you with the divorce, or the opposite?
No. Well, no. I can't say that, but yeah.
Is it cuff, or what is it?
Oh yeah, an alpha widow situation is a situation in which you're like with someone who is so effective for you that you will be chasing that forever. And you can hear that on the like reunion Swans records, where it's like every reunion Swans records for a minute there, he's just like, what if I got a woman that's not Jarboe?
Yes.
Hop on this track.
Right, yeah.
What if Karen O is on this album?
Right.
What if that happens?
Right.
You know, like whatever your opinion of that is, I even just mean it aesthetically, where she brings a sense of, hey, I think we can do this thing that's bigger and bigger. And then once she leaves, Michael Gira is like, yeah, I think we can do this thing that's bigger and bigger.
Right.
It's, you know, there's always that thing. I don't like that documentary they did a few years ago. There's a few like sick moves in it where like he just doesn't really address any of his controversy, which is cool for a 3-hour documentary. That's nice.
Yeah.
But there is a thing in it where he like gets the letter from Jarboe, which is like basically like fan mail.
Yeah.
And I think it's Thurston who's just like, yeah, I think this isn't a dude.
Yeah. He's explained to him that it's not just a dude.
And then he's like, oh, cool, because I was hoping I would like make a friend, but like now he's like, wow, there's this woman,
right,
interested, and it reminds me of like someone meeting on like EverQuest or something, and they're both playing as chicks, and they find out that they could be more than friends.
Right, it's like maybe she's a chick who can hang, like
for sure.
Yeah.
No, but there's just this stuff where you hear it, and you hear Angels of Light. You hear all of this stuff that changes on Children of God, and you go like, "Oh, all of it can happen now."
Right.
I think that would have been foreclosed upon pretty heavily. Maybe not just the record before, but at least by the third record, it's still just like Swans is going to be one kind of band until they, reasonably as you can imagine in the 80s, like just break up for good. Like there's a version of that band that just breaks up in 89 and like it doesn't exist at all.
Yep, and probably has, very, tons of influence. I mean, maybe not the same amount, but sure. Still, like, I mean, like, just that, like, I mean, the early stuff and this stuff as well. But I mean, the early stuff where it's just there's no Jarboe, there's no female singing, there's not any melodic elements. It's just pure sour, clanging, dissonant, and like raving. That shit for me. Even though I never like started just straight doing that music, it's definitely a kind of thing that just as a musician, it was like gives you permission. It's like a permission thing. It's like you could do this. This is allowed. And especially like in improvised music, I'm like, I could, this is a valid thing you could do, and it's powerful. Like, I don't know. For me, there was something there just with the repetition, man. It's like
totally. Yeah, the raga-ass sort of like a song can just be this phrase until we're fucking like laying on the floor is like very, it's so much cooler than like every sludge loser who's done it since. And then like there is, but I will say like the permission works from the other end. And like to my point of what I'm talking about with Jarboe, it's like the permission to turn Michael Gira into a different kind of vocalist.
Yes.
Right. For her to basically say like, hey, I hear what you're doing on stage when you have gone hoarse, when you are spent, you can do that. Like those can be the records now. You can borderline croon. And like you say like, you don't fuck with the twang shit as much, but I'll tell you, it's not the twang that I don't fuck with. There are moments where it reminds me of Nick Cave, and I don't dislike it, but it just reminds me of Nick Cave, who I don't want to remember.
I
And
don't like him either, right? You guys do good. No, good. No, because he's one of those. He's one of those.
I gotta have some respect for Nick Cave.
Sure.
I love the birthday party too much, man.
I do love the birthday party, and respect is a good word because it's not like I don't respect him, but it's
not like fuck him forever. It's
it's just never grabbed me. Tom Waits as well. It's just not.
He's like a slightly like moodier, gothier Tom Waits, and I like some of those Bad Seeds records up to like Tender Prey, I think, but like after a certain point, it gets really fucking hacky.
Unfortunately, I'm now, and we don't have to get into the weeds of what we like and don't like all night, but I'm more amenable to Tom Waits because that's like more of a guy that like makes sense to me. Like he just comes from where he comes from and then like keeps doing it forever. Where like Nick Cave is someone who very specifically has like put on a suit to be a certain kind of guy and almost preempts his age.
Right.
Oh, 100%.
And I fucking hate that. Like,
you decide that you are an adult. Yeah.
It's really, it makes both the artifice of both things too weird for me, where it makes him, when he is more rambunctious when younger, I'm going like, oh, and that's not real either. Those aren't real feelings. You don't actually have that.
Yeah. And I shouldn't say, when I say I find Gira's cowboy hat cringe, like I don't find it cringe to the point where I'm like, this is complete LARPing and inauthentic and has nothing to do. It's like, I mean, I know this is coming from a real place, and I'm with you on the vibe of that. I don't relate to the twangy, like the country aspect, but his voice, the fact that he does real melodic singing, is great. I mean, it is, he is, I mean, and he's doing that even on the stuff that's not as twangy. He still is singing. I mean, on like Sex God Sex and stuff. I mean, he's doing melody, because he really is like blessed of voice, I mean, he is just like, this is a person who the shape of his neck and voice box are like, should be used to like a maximum effect, on all fronts.
When I still think that's even like, that's an interesting aspect of Jarboe, where I'm like, oh, that's a guy who almost like maybe fucks it up for himself just being a guy in the 80s who like is hitting himself, is hurting himself on stage, is kind of too like he has tunnel vision towards the idea of like what he needs to give to his art.
Yeah.
And I think Jarboe starts to come in and be like, but you could have a whole life to give instead of like these 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And that's interesting too to me, where it's like, I think probably the first person to say, hey, what if you like had some lemon tea?
Right. Well, it's like the organic. Yeah, it's like the organic version of the putting on a suit. It's not like, I'm adult now. It's like, no, I'm in love, and feminine stuff is actually as heavy as this, hyper masculine shit. I mean, it's like I feel like, I mean, there's some stuff that's just not even that complicated. It's just that like love, like he's talking about love and shit. I mean, and it's like all of that early stuff is about suffering, and it's like pure suffering and violence. And I mean, I talk about this in my video about Justin Broadrick, how it's just this thing of like loss of the self, it's just like that as subject matter spiritually and poetically. I mean, just that, suffering and humiliation is a loss of the self, but, he gets into like love being this more, it's like, it's like equally scary in a way and mysterious and vertiginous, losing yourself in that way. And there's the psychedelic loss of the self. I mean, it's sort of like trying to come up with something that's not like dark in the sense of like, this is hell, but it's dark in the sense of absolute mystery and abyssal, stuff. So it's like, that's sort of where the love thing is for me. I just, the Jarboe aspect.
Well, I think that's an interesting thing too, is like, and I'd be curious what Will has to say on this, but like, there's a way that the post-reunion versus like pre-reunion discography sort of like guides a listener, where you'll notice like if you're enough of a faggot to like check out what's written on RYM or something, you'll notice that there's people who will come to Children of God like as an early Swans record, and therefore I think are kind of projecting a little bit too much like Christian hate.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah.
No,
exactly. But like, it's fair play if you're coming from that early shit to just be like, of course, Michael Gira is just some, but then you have to just not listen to the record. You have to be ignoring what's happening in front of you. And that's one of the things that's interesting is it is so dead in the middle. It still has a lot of his misanthropy, but like you can hear a struggle almost song for song between like them and him trying to be like a different kind of guy and think about things differently for this band, but for this band with her. And it's weird. Like it's really, really weird, both in the ways that it like presages other things that Swans will do, but also in the way that it presages like fundamentally, like no matter how much he's in love with the idea of like this band moving in this direction, them being not, long for the world, that they can't do this forever either, because there is some incompatibility there. Like obviously.
Yeah. The I mean, Audrey in the comments is saying that when Jarboe was talking about how when they would play the song Blackmail, people would throw bottles at her and stuff. I mean, it definitely has a Courtney killed Kurt, like kind of like, hey, Yoko, like this is like a Yoko thing or something. No, not Courtney, it's a Yoko thing, like
sure.
Viewing
it. And also because like, well, like, and if she did, like, thank you, but I don't care.
I shouldn't have even brought the Courtney Kurt thing, but a Yoko, but sort of a Yoko vibe.
There's like a non-zero chance that Dylan Carson will watch this. So like,
non-zero. No, it's very true. It's very true.
That could happen. That's a guy who's just online.
I would be. Well, maybe I should try to get that guy on here. Anyway, but
definitely do that.
You think so? I'm gonna track Dylan. I'm gonna track Dylan Carson down. But yeah, Audrey's talking about that song Blackmail. That's like that's a very different song on that record, because not only is it all Jarboe. I mean, Blood and Honey is also all Jarboe, but like
different way.
And in my garden.
And in my garden, which I that's not one of my favorites, but Blackmail. It's a piano song with Jarboe, and the melody for that, I do have to ask myself, I assume Jarboe didn't write shit on any of this all these years, I assume. But returning to it, I'm like, the tune, like the melody that she's singing on that, that's like a crafted, again, not music theory nerd style, but like that's not just like two notes that are spooky.
Sure.
That's like some it's like
back to what I was talking about. I mean, if you listen to like Jarboe interview, she talks about like how early on, like pretty much pre-Children of God, she would like continue pushing for things like this to happen, and like Michael would constantly be sort of pulling her in and be like, "You're getting too musical. You got to make it more minimal, starker." And this apparently is where he finally lets go of the reins. So with those tracks where it's like exclusively her, she is doing like a lot of the writing on those, especially.
Is she? Okay.
Yeah.
She actually wrote that tune or
I believe the whole tune. And I think my guess is that things like In My Garden she probably also wrote too.
Yeah.
Blood and Honey seems a little bit more ambiguous to me.
Yeah. But dude, Blackmail, bless her heart. This is the thing. We want women to nag us. We complain, but we need that. We want it's an important thing. You know what I'm saying?
No, for sure. I mean, and Blackmail is also great because it gives this little like platform for what I see is like the sweep from Trust Me onward. Like Trust Me is my favorite song on the whole record.
Is it? Okay. Yeah.
That song like destroys.
Yeah.
But like that sweep from Trust Me all the way through to the end is just so fucking good.
Yeah.
And like Blackmail exists as this like break into like, okay, and like we're now gonna trudge straight through.
No.
Yeah, and like I understand the sense of like, oh, I don't like In My Garden so much. I think Will and I probably share some general sensibility of like that stuff reminds us of like Shirley Collins and like things that like that I very much fuck with.
Me too.
And there's a big thing of once again, I'm saying like you could turn on Children of God, hear New Mind, be like, all right, I know what Swans is. I don't need, especially if you're looking at like Children of God and World of Skin, like you're looking at multiple CDs and you're like, maybe I don't need this. Not because it's not good, but because I have it.
Right. No, totally.
In My Garden comes in and you're like, oh fuck, all right, I don't know what Swans is anymore.
No, totally agreed. I had that thought when I was brushing up on this week. I was like, yeah, right, it's not my favorite, but in the context of the thing, it sets up as track 2. It's a perfect track 2 to set you up for the variety that is going to be the record. I gotta say, I mean, okay, just to say more, some shit is too obvious, but it's just like, I mean, to press play on New Mind, I mean, okay, if you've been into Swans already, like fine, you might be like, but I mean, if you don't know Swans or if you kind of know them, to start a record, I mean, that is just absolutely crushing way to just enter into something, man.
And so that's your first Swan song ever. Like
yes. That's the first. Cool. That's the first fucking thing, man. And I mean, it's just like, it's like, all right, I now know this. The Hellraiser box is open. I know it's these, you know, you called, we came. It's like, there it is, you know. But
I mean, referring to it as like a lament configuration is like perfect because that's like what Swans is.
Yeah.
Like it is exactly that.
Yeah, you summon Gira. Yeah. We kind of me and Chuck used to have this thing about like we used to have like 2 labels. There's like as an art, like as a musician or an artist, you can be a master or be an art fuck guy. Like an art fuck guy is like a like, you know, you like make deep music, but you're like not, you don't have craft, you don't have total, you might be a master and like that you dominate the group, but it's like, you know, like a master is someone who has like a big, great, diverse side project. Like Justin Broderick is a master, like Gira is art fuck guy, like all the way, like, like about the lore, you know, it's about lore, it's about the whole story and everything, you know. Dude, he's like a member of my family, that guy. I mean, it's just absolutely, yeah. I mean, okay, favorite tracks.
Wait, what did you mean by that? No, sorry, I was like, what do you mean, like, by a member of your family?
Just he's like a father figure. I don't know, or just one of these guys that just like raises you. You know what I mean? It's like him. Like for me, it's like him, John Coltrane, John Zorn. I mean, these are people who just, they're like guiding lights.
And if your dad comes in with a cowboy hat, you're like, can you take it off?
Yeah. My dad especially, guys. It's just like, yeah. But all right. I mean, normie questions, but yeah, like favorite tracks on Children of God. Wait, Xylon, you already said Trust Me is your jam. What about you, Will? What's your favorite on this one?
I go back and forth between the title track and Sex God Sex. Those 2 are like neck and neck for me.
Yeah. I feel like Sex God Sex, like all told, over time probably has been my favorite for most of the time, you know. But then you get into, whenever I pick up an acoustic, I often play like You're Not Real Girl. That's my you know.
That one's like rough.
Yeah, the fucking lyrics. I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, something that I find a lot on this record that's like I was noticing this time is that like something that makes it different from the earlier stuff is that like, well, you start to see this a little bit on like Greed and Holy Money and the stuff like right before it, but that like there actually aren't a million different instruments, but like in each song, there's like a few non-guitar, you know, elements that are not guitar and bass. There'll be like, you know, a strings thing, an organ, an oboe. There'll be these things, but it's like the hook. Like a lot of the time, the hook will be in these other instruments, or like trumpets and Like a Drug. It's like they're it's like these things are set apart, not just by the beat and the tempo, but by whatever that extra element is very defining, you know?
I will say that the thing that reminds me of the most, or what was coming up today when I was re-listening to it, is like Vita and Fleece.
What's that?
The Van Morrison record.
Oh, I don't know it actually.
Yeah, but like it's also similarly like his like big ass like please, he entirely tried to bury it afterwards, but it's like big ass Irish, like here's a bunch of pipes, here's a bunch of more acoustic instruments, but it's not a bunch more. It's like one more per song. And it just gets into the zone of like, damn, like you do hear just, there's something almost like in it of itself, like Michael Gira, Swan style, brutal about him just pushing the envelope that much more, being like, and Swans can be this. Yeah. And like you can hear you now are going to accept that this is what Swans can be. And it isn't this huge, you know, it doesn't have the Pet Sounds ass, like we're trying to leap into orchestration. It's
right. Yeah. It's not fussy. It's not like fussy Baroque pop, like, like a million layers. You know, you've got that, you know, like, trust me, you've got the fucking oboe, you know, there's like little, you know, and then, and I mean, it's like, like the horns on Like a Drug, are just so, I mean, they I guess they have horns on like Holy Money, right? Or on some of that, the stuff on the earlier record, like on the record before. But I mean, just these atonal little stabs, like, it just like sets these things apart, man. It's like, I almost think of this shit, there's almost like a rap vibe, not just in the sense of like, these things, it's not a guitar record. These aren't riffs. They're not, they're beats. You know, in the sense,
100%.
right. You know what I'm saying? Because like a great hip hop, a great, you know, hip hop production. It's like a few elements that are heavy as fuck together. There's a bass note or bass line, but it's not like a riff. You know, this isn't like Sabbath. It's not Crowbar. You know, it's you know.
Well, if you read Will Sampson's War at 33 1/3.
Thanks for the plug, man. Didn't have to
let's hear this.
No, this is just
this is like an old essay that was also on PopCon. But no, like most of the thesis of that is just like drawing connections between like Throbbing Gristle and like Public Enemy, and like the aesthetics between like industrial music and hip hop. So very relevant here. Also, the roots of that in like just older, like early rock and roll, like Johnny Cash and shit.
Yeah.
But,
this is an essay you wrote?
Yeah.
Okay, I should fuck with this because I do remember you were still on Twitter at that point, and we were tweeting back and forth, I think, a little bit about public
this would have been around the time I first started this, my like No Future. So it would have been around that era.
Okay, War at 33 1/3, right? That's that Public Enemy track,
Right,
But this is like, I mean, this is something that like Will and I talk about a lot, and like Will is maybe even like more specifically on than I am. But like you're totally right, and I think that there's an interesting thing to exactly what you're saying about Gira being a sort of like art fuck guy too, where, I mean, the reason it's Gira all the way fucking through is not just because it's his voice and it's his, you know, lyrics and the narrative and that sort of conception, but it's also that he has had 60 fucking people help him do this. And I'm sure there are burned bridges. I'm sure there are plenty. But the fact that he's just said, no, I'm going to keep doing it. And anytime I do it, it's more or less, except for like a couple side steps, but like more or less it's Swans.
Right.
And I'm just going to keep doing that. But that also follows the same logic of like, oh, I have a drum machine now.
Right.
Like black metal guys who are like, you know, what's easier than talking to a drummer?
Well, there's a thing I feel like as a band leader I've learned, and not really the hard way, luckily, not too much the hard way. Right. But if you're gonna be like, the way you really burn bridges is when you're like control freak, but also like asking a lot of the people's like personal investment. Sure. Like you got to have one or the other. If you're going to be a control freak, you got to graciously like, you know, tell people what to do in a benevolent way. If you're going to get input from people and use their creativity, you got to be like, okay, humble. But yeah, I can imagine Gira burning bridges being like, I'm a dictator, but also you're doing a lot of the like actual like coming up with the material and shit. Like, totally. I mean, like if you're just like go like, if it's like, okay, guys, go down, and then Norman Westberg comes up with the actual like brutal like chords that you're playing. It's like Norman needs some credit on that. Like, you know what I mean?
For
like,
sure.
It's like,
I mean, ultimately, hopefully, I mean, you say under undercredited, but I think at least at the end of the day, you know, that's a guy who's getting royalties on the most Swans records.
Good for
possible,
him. Yeah.
Other than Michael Gira, you know, so like
Yeah.
he doesn't just get, you know, he's not just getting to be along for the ride, but he's there for all of those tours. I saw him solo, which was very cool. He played with Marching Church, which is a band that I used to fuck with pretty heavy. It's like Elias from Ice Age and
Ice Age, yeah.
guys and stuff. But like when he played solo, he just has 2 amps and then like 2 guitar, like 2 pedal chains going to each amp. And then he's just miking those, and it's just straight up like stereo wizardry, just him and a solo guitar, nothing else.
Damn,
like,
I would like to check that out, man.
It's cool. Yeah, it seems like honestly something that you could definitely make happen up there for sure. Like I could see that bill easily form into my mind.
Like
you
yeah,
could just play with Norman. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, oh no, Norman, he fucks with Extra Life. I talked to him like a long time ago. Yeah. We're not like buddies, but I talked to him years ago. Yeah, man, dude, New York, man. Fucking New York. I feel like this shit. That's another thing though. I feel like this shit. Yeah, right. It's just so obnoxious. But I feel like I do feel like though, the band became. It's like less and less New York in my mind. I mean, it's like Children of God at that point does not sound like it's not like marked by the city the way like that earlier shit. I'm like, this probably I don't know. It's the no wave thing, that noisy no wave thing, you know?
Well, also, I mean, I think in general, like it is antithetical to like what they're doing initially, like how bombed out their initial lives are and like what those tours are and what they're actually doing. It's reflected in the music that they're just like living basically in, you know, the sort of storied, like fucked up, bombed out New York.
Right.
And then those guys are slowly, you know, hopefully, I don't think that music would exist if they weren't able to like carve out a modicum of stability for themselves.
Right.
You don't get an oboe on the record,
no,
but still live in a squat.
Right.
Not happening.
Right. Even I only know one oboist actually in New York and shit. I mean, it's like,
yeah.
And I've got a phone full of classical cats, but actually oboe is a tough one. I mean, actually Carissa Worden, I think she moved to fucking Detroit now. Anyway, it's a great instrument though. I mean, it's really like
for sure.
That thing cuts through. I mean, it's very synth like, you know, it's just like this very like, saw wave, you know.
It's real rubbery. Yeah. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I think you're right. They're like less of a New York band at that point, and that only continues more and more as they kind of go on, where it not only just becomes the cowboy hat, to be clear, comes on as he also decides to live places elsewhere and be around. And like the story of Swans more or less is like, yeah, this is a guy in New York. But like before that, isn't he seeing like Pink Floyd in Israel?
Yeah.
Like this is not a rat, like a street rat.
No, he's not. The lore with Gira is he's very much like runaway fucked up kid from LA, but I think of it more as he's just like an American weirdo kid who ends up in New York. I mean, but that's a New York archetype though. You know what I mean? It's like, that's Bags is a New York archetype, but also the like weirdo who ends up there. It was, now you can't even afford to, but you know.
When I think also New York is in and of itself, even just by 87, like it's not the thing. It's not no New York.
Right. It's not taxi
even
driver.
New York in 87 is not no wave New York. True, and that is, I mean, you say like, it's actually funny to me that there isn't some like parapolitics nerd who has speculated that Michael Gira is like a Fed.
Wait, a Fed in what way? Like,
just because he's like out there. Why is he in Israel? Like, what's?
You think he's just like Mossad?
No, something for sure. Because that's what they love to do. They love to be like, oh, did you know this guy's dad worked for the government? I'm like,
all this dad, you can't connect him to like Laurel Canyon shit.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but and this isn't really like him being like a Fed or anything, but if a parapolitics guy were to like try to do that, the way you would do it was connecting it to like Brian Wilson and shit, because Giroir's dad was worked under Murray Wilson. Or no, Giroir's dad. Fuck, I'm forgetting if Giroir's dad was the boss or Murray Wilson, who's Brian Wilson's dad, was the boss. But like they worked like with each other.
Wait, sorry. Was Murray Wilson the head of the FBI or something? Or
no, Murray Wilson is Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys' father. And there's like a whole bunch of like parapolitics shit surrounding like the Beach Boys, Laurel Canyon music scene, etc.
Okay, okay. Wait, let's go deeper into this though, because so the Laurel Canyon scene, so that's like LA, what 60s?
Yeah, like 60s, like let's say mid 60s into like mid 70s, roughly.
Yeah.
And who's on that? And who's on that vibe? Is that Beach Boys a part of that, or?
Yeah, Beach Boys is a part of that. Who else would have been early on? I know later, like it's more like singer-songwritery type guys, like fucking who's the one? Carole King type shit. And like,
okay, right on. Yes.
So there's like the McGowan book, like Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, which is all about like that shit. And he's like, oh, I like this stuff, and so I'm slightly sussed out by it, but I love all of this music.
Wait, Gira does. He likes.
No. There's this guy Dave McGowan who wrote Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, which is just about like all that stuff. And like,
Beefheart also, and like Zap.
Beefheart's around here.
I see. Okay.
But like any of that stuff being like lightly like a limited hangout or whatever. I mean, like remember, Dennis Wilson is like linking up with Charles Manson.
Right.
They're like recording together or whatever the fuck that means. You know, like there's weird. I mean, of course, there's going to be weird Hollywood stuff, but I've, you know, if you've ever seen Tulane Blacktop, Phil Spector and Dennis Wilson are both in that movie, which is just so funny to me. But yeah, there's
wait. Murray Wilson is Brian Wilson's dad, and Dennis Wilson is
his brother. Brother.
Okay.
Who's also in Beach Boys. Yeah. But like, yeah, there's just weird. I mean, and that's funny with like what we were talking about. I was joking about like it not being like Pet Sounds, but it would be funny to me if like Michael Gira has like any access to the Beach Boys as that's happening.
He probably did.
Yeah, because if that's just your dad's coworker's son, that's funny.
Okay. Wait. Sorry. So Gira's dad was coworker friends with Brian Wilson's dad.
I'm pretty sure it's specifically Murray Wilson was Gira's dad's boss, because the joke I've always made about this is the reason that Swans is so fucked up is in part due to just like it being downstream from like his dad working for Murray Wilson, and just, you know, Murray Wilson beat the shit out of his kids. So like just somehow Gira's getting run off from that through his dad.
Okay, run off from that, and also run off from some of the occult Mansonite energies going on in the Laurel Canyon thing. And possibly he's growing up in LA, and Gira's older than a lot of his contemporaries in New York. Like he starts Swans and he's 28, so he's born in like 53. So he would actually be a teenager during that late 60s. Laurel Canyon shit. Right. Now, as far as him go ahead. You're gonna say
I didn't mean for this to happen, but I'm so excited.
This is why
took a goofy turn that this took.
This is why people literally do and listen to podcasts. Here we are.
Sure.
Okay. But then also, as far as him being a Fed, okay. First, explain or go deeper into why this would make him a Fed. Like, what would
just because parapolitics guys like always think like that. Like if you know someone who knows someone who's a Fed, or if you've been in the room as like a Fed, or in the same room with a Fed at some point, somehow you're implicated. That's just how a lot of this shit works. I'm not saying I sign off on it.
No, and that's lightly what I'm making fun of, right? Is that you have this sort of, a lot of it runs, my immediate sort of response to a lot of the parapolitical thinking is, if your dad did something for work, that means you hate him. It doesn't mean you do what he does for work. Like this works the same way with like conspiracy theory shit, where like, 500 years of guys just listening to what their dad thinks is right for the world. They have like infinite power, but the Illuminati is just a bunch of sons listening to their fathers. That makes no sense to me. That's that. If anything, if you have unlimited resources, you're like, my dad's a fucking retard. I'm going to do it this way. Right. Just keep switching. But there is a sort of kind of guy who goes, these guys were in a room together once. That's kind of sus. This is this is not even limited. Cantbot can be like this at times. Like this happens.
Cantbot typically does a better job with it.
But this is a type of thinking that happens. And I was pairing that with the fact that Gira is the narrative that he spins is like, I'm kind of like a runaway, and it's like, yeah, man, I've known runaways who get to like Montana.
Right. Well, no, yeah.
Real.
Right. No. Part of his lore, right? He ran away as a kid and made it to Israel. I know, and ended up in an Israeli prison. Yeah, this doesn't really. Yeah, no. That always seemed weird to me. That always seemed fucking weird to me.
And he talks about like seeing Floyd like do the scream and shit, and like that kind of like unlocking something in his head. And it's again, that's what it's fucking supposed to do. Like if you listen to any of these people, like that's what that music's for, dude. Is to unlock something in your head, and then spend the next like 15 to 45 years of your life on like supremely negative, mind altering music. Yeah. So like there's this like I don't think he is that, but there is this sort of interesting moment of him. I mean, I think there's a different thing you can spin, which is that he's actually just this supremely like dark-sided hippie figure.
Where all of the industrial guys.
Yeah, totally. I mean, of course, like Genesis was the same way. These are people who are slightly older than their cohort, who saw a little bit more, who are then seeing like youth impulses and going, hey, no, I actually know what this is a little bit more than you because I'm 5 to 10 years older than you.
Right. No, it's the Manson. Yeah, Manson being the dark. Yeah, like, and also actually, and Audrey's bringing up in the comments what was going to be my next thing. We don't have to go. Okay, I know the parapolitics thing. We want to move on, but Jarboe's dad was in the FBI.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Those tapes are on like some of the records.
Well, they're on soundtracks for the blind. Which if anyone
important parallel between her and Courtney Love.
Hey,
was Courtney Love's dad in the FBI?
Courtney Love's dad, I think, is CIA.
Yeah, CIA was selling the dead like fucking like LSD.
Yeah. Which is part of what's so funny about Kurt being one of these like anti-Grateful Dead fags is like because he used to wear those shirts with like the torn off teddy bears and stuff.
Oh, did he? Okay,
I hate. There's nothing worse than a hippie who thinks he's above it. But like Jarboe has like these connections as well. I mean. But that's like, once again, that's not to say these people are something. It's more so to say that, like, you know, first of all, as we're learning right now in current events, a lot of people have government jobs, not for long, but like a lot of people have government jobs. And it's all the rage, one could say. But the fact is that like probably there is some amount of like touching things like that make Gira and Jarboe have like affinities. Where it's like, like I'm around similarly straight-laced sort of people. I'm around a certain type of culture at a certain time. Jarboe being specifically Southern is important to me, where it's like, that's not just like some hippie girl. She's like from swamp-ass South.
Okay. I didn't actually really know that. I never,
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, like, is it Alabama or Georgia?
I want to say Alabama, but I might be wrong.
Yeah. But she's hearing the Swans stuff all the way down there, which is definitely fucked up.
Right.
She's born in Mississippi. Yeah, this is like a very
right. She's not she's not like Kim Gordon or some kind of like a New York art world person who gets into Swans that way.
She seems like a good person.
Yeah.
No, but she's definitely coming from like a different context, and I think that. Once again, to say that shit of like, oh, Swans is the blues early on, it's like, oh, there's a reason to almost come from like a sort of Southern background where you hear a lot of roots music and you're just like, oh, this is like closer to being able to hear people getting rowdy.
Yeah, well, I mean,
instruments.
Yeah, no, I mean, on the most, just the most simple statement is like, I think probably, at least my impression, like I think more poor people listen to Swans than listen to Sonic Youth. I might be wrong about that, but like, you know what I'm saying? True. Like metal, like people who are like real like metal cats and noise cats, like blue collar metal, blue collar noise cats fuck with Swans, I think, in a way that they like don't fuck with like DNA or something. I mean, or
I always talk about a thing that happens here, like when we throw shows or when I've run things, and I've been doing this like not forever, but like I'm 30 now. And there's a weird thing where I'm in the town I grew up in, so I'm around a bunch of like townies who showed me Bungle for the first time when I was in middle school and shit.
Hell yeah.
And that's like really sick, but I get this sort of question that goes, yeah, man, like who gets freaked out by this stuff? Because this town doesn't have context for what harsh noise is or any of that stuff. Who gets freaked out by this? And it's like, they think it's a Van Halen, like Motorhead, Queens of the Stone Age ass guy who just can't hang. But like 9 times out of 10, those guys, they might not be able to understand even like what is happening at a like, I think sometimes they think it's legitimately like a guitar hidden underneath of a table or something. But there's something where they can just go like, oh, that's like really loud. Maybe it's like death metal I've never heard before. I don't quite understand it, but like I get the point.
Yeah.
But people hands down who fucking hate this shit are like Sonic Youth fans. Are like Royal Trucks fans. People who believe that their taste is at the edge.
Right.
And they just cannot process that there's something beyond. And if there is that something beyond, it's not music. Like in their mind, it would destroy their false sense of erudition for there to be something deeper than Sonic Youth. And like that comes down to something that's like specifically interesting with Swans for me, which is like Will and I talk about like growing up, Nirvana still being kind of a deep cut band.
Yeah.
Like you can talk to a guy and he's like, oh yeah, it's still like 2010. I remember Taylor Swift wearing like a smiley face, like Nirvana shirt, and people are like, you don't even fucking like them. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like Nirvana's, that's just a normal, but Taylor Swift, like that band is for Taylor Swift. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
But like that was the conversation, and that needle was just there like 15 years ago. But Swans was also this way where there's a person for whom it is almost entirely entry level. Like it is the beginning of really liking music for real. And then there's someone else who's like, this is the fucking edge. Like this is the heaviest shit I've ever heard in my life. Yeah. And that's an interesting ground to get in on, is like this band almost, I think for a lot of people, probably breaks the length barrier for them. Like,
yeah, I think about just super long. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I mean, a lot of people like Freebird isn't just like Freebird because it's Freebird and it's a sick fucking song, but it's also because it's like kind of long for the radio. It's like one of the
or Stairway, you know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But like Swans is just probably one of those bands that people get into and they're like, damn, like, all right, albums are kind of long now. Like this is what it means to sit down.
something I kind of occurred to me when I was revisiting it is just like how some of the songs are actually not as long as I remember them being, because some of these are like, they're so fucking repetitive, and the type of material that it is, just for 5 minutes, I like remembered the song being like 20 minutes long, but it's actually just like, it's kind of short. But there are songs that are like 7-10 minutes long. I mean, there's a lot of shit that's like legitimately long.
Let me touch my thermostat real quick.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I feel like I feel like there is a lot of like in just metal, like they're one of those bands that like, I think there are a lot of people who are really into sludge metal and death metal and doom shit that like don't fuck with no wave or experimental music, but Swans are just this like
yeah, just because they're the only band out of that group of bands that are heavy in any respect.
Yeah,
none of those other bands are. It's all like, I like a lot of those bands, but like
those other bands are harsh,
shit.
shrill. They're not like the dissonance that they're playing with is not. It's like, once again, it gets outside of the raga thing of like a lot of DNA shit, a lot of suicide shit. Like if it's repetitive, it's not repetitive in a sort of like way that gets your body moving.
Yeah.
Sure, DNA. Yeah, DNA can. But once again, like in a more like fucking nerdy, spastic way,
for sure.
But like there is this thing with Swans where it's kind of it has. You can almost see like with that early stuff too a negative influence, because like once again I hate most sludge, and like I you can see people taking the wrong lessons from that shit, right? Where like the more kind of like I'm a band that's like somewhat tribal.
Tribal drumming, right?
That's gotta stop.
Yeah. No. For sure. I mean, I just don't really like it's like stoner doom. Like I do not really like that as a genre in general. But like, I think metal dudes though there is this thing of like permission. There is this like permission to be repetitive. And I think there's a lot of death metal like music that doesn't even sonically take anything from Swans, but just there's this respect. Something has been learned or observed. I think that the blues, man. Just to like, we've been making this point, but just I feel like art world shit. Like part of what's cool, but part of what really is not cool about like art world shit is that there's always got to be this cryptic. Cryptic shit is cool, but there's got to be this sort of like detachment or like where is the subject in it? Where is the person? Where it could be ironic detachment, but doesn't necessarily have to be irony. But just some kind of like, where's the guy? Like commentary, this meta thing. Whereas like Swans, it's about human suffering. For the most part.
Yeah.
And then it starts to be about love and psychedelic shit. But you're dealing with
the body and the person.
It's fucking human. It is like human stuff, man. Like you do not. It's not confusing. It's not confusing music.
It's not confusing on an immediate level, but if you pay closer attention to some of the lyrical choices on this one, mostly coming from Jarboe, but even on later stuff coming more from Gira, it gets a lot more. If you're paying attention, there are like subtle shades of like something more going on that I think is really interesting. I think things like In My Garden and Blackmail specifically hint at this. But just there's a certain, with something like Blackmail, it's a very beautiful piece of music, but there's something about that melody and something about like the word choices and just like calling it Blackmail. That just, it adds like a really menacing quality to it. And In My Garden, I don't know about you guys, but I always took that to be just like a sort of more directly spiritual song out of the bunch. But it gets to the end and I can't remember what the lines are, but again, there are a couple very small lines that just throw like a very menacing shade on everything.
I don't know. Well, I feel you. I feel you on the level of like that the stuff is not overly on the nose. It's not like there are like these turns of phrase where it's like, it's like menacing and dark because there is this kind of like, it's not like crawling in my skin, these wounds they will not heal and shit. It's not just human suffering. I know Xylon's like, don't fuck with Linkin Park. That's an age thing, man. Because
I also don't fuck with Linkin Park.
No, it's not an age thing. Yeah, Will's also wrong. I get it.
I'm just taking your point.
Okay, no, real quick though, because this is the second most important interview that's happened this week. Yesterday, Kanye West went and talked to academics, and I don't know if you've known about this, but Kanye West in full black Klansman garb, like full leather Klan uniform, he's on about the idea that the government has killed Chester Bennington from Linkin Park. Which is so lit. It's so cool to hear. He's just like, he was getting too close to talking about Zog, and they had to kill the guy from Linkin Park. And I'm like, dude, what?
I've gone from Kanye. I went from liking him to like being mad at him when he started this new edgelord phase, but now I've come around to like, I love. He is just
so
king level shit. Like actually, seriously, some of the funniest. But like not just funny, like he's making people mad, but like really like comedy. Like
it's also just,
and they're not done without reason artistically.
When in a lot of his position being more so like our friend Miles talks a lot about how like hip hop, economically speaking, is technically Jewish folk music, and it's like it's important.
That is one of the most base things ever said on this channel, man. I know you're like importing it. It's just you're quoting.
No, but look, these conversations happen with me in the room for a reason. It's my homie, but we're homies. So no, but like that thing, like what happened about a couple months ago, where Leor Cohen comes out and goes, like Kanye, you really got to stop this, like. Basically saying out loud, like, we have a lot invested in rap music. We clearly care about rap music. Cut us some slack. This is weird for us. And he's like, yeah, you mean you make a lot of money off of telling us to kill each other?
Right.
Like, that's not like, and that
point has been made in the past by Hoteps, and it has less
mean,
credibility. It has less credibility coming from some Farrakhan guy on a street corner with UFOs and Egypt
depending
shit.
on who you are, but yes, I mean, I will say there's a lot of people who listen to those guys on the street corner.
Right. No. But I also think because we are not going to talk about fucking Palestine and shit. But I do think because of it, there's a little more wiggle room.
Oh, it's getting crazy.
Like when someone is a little bit anti-Semitic about it, like people are like, you know what? I'm just gonna let this guy be a little bit fucked up because he's like, you know what I mean? It's like the people.
It's everyone's wires are crossed super hard on this stuff because like contradictions are coming to bear, and conversations that people do not want to have are like becoming more and more impossible to avoid. And like with Ye, it's very specifically like not specific. The way that he is more malicious towards the concept of like celebrity itself more than anything is really interesting to me, where he's almost saying like, well, anyone's fair game unless they want to like step out of the limelight because that's what we're doing. And that's really interesting because I don't think there's ever been a time where like the clearness, the clarity around like, oh, I can use this symbol and we can actually find out if it means something. Yeah. Like the platitudes we all have of like art can change your life, it can do so much when it actually in fact cannot. And like it just gives you an opportunity to reflect. It gives you an opportunity to then recollect yourself and act, but it cannot act for you. It's like, oh, like what does happen when one of the most famous people in the world wears a swastika, or like the Joker like buys ad time for the Super Bowl just to sell a shirt with a swastika on it. And it's like human suffering changes in no significant way at all.
Right.
And everything that you think remains exactly the same. Like this is how possible it is. So why are you talking to someone on Twitter about like how they need to use their platform?
Right.
Like if that's how he can use his platform and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Like, why are you browbeating people over how they need to speak or whatever else? Not even on some like anti-PC, like censorship stuff. Straight up just like, what do you think these things actually mean? And what do they demonstrably mean in the world?
Right. I mean, that said, I don't think behind this, I don't think Kanye has any actual interest in like doing the real shit of like making the world a better place or helping people, but I don't think he has to. I mean, I think I think that's true, but I think insofar as like I don't know that anyone, once again, like, and we don't have to get like uber political, but where I would have at one point been someone who would have said, oh, like, yeah, let's tax the rich or whatever. I don't really care. Like, I don't like that they have as much money as they have, but I don't like what the government does with that money. So if I'm going to bitch about who gets what money sent for what, and then my like answer for that is, yeah, take more from billionaires so you can do the exact same shitty things that you're doing with the fake money. I'm like, what are you talking about? Okay. Yeah.
It just the idea that like all of this comes down to like some sort of like individual act or charity or whatever else is in and of itself like inane. That where you just imagine that like what Kanye could do is, I'm like, no, what he can do is like make another sick record or not. Like that's fine too.
He could do some things. He could help some homeless people with his billions, but we don't need to get into what Kanye needs to do. Like, I will say Kanye, one of his most Gerard out tweets that I can possibly, this is like straight out of Gerard. I don't know if you saw this. He said, I can't remember word for word except for the end, but he said, I don't have any friends. If you see people around me, they're not friends. They're working for me. Friendship is for kids, is for children. The only things that are real are money and the law. In all caps.
I want to be real. That sounds more like Boyd Rice shit.
I
see what you mean, though.
I was like, Jesus Christ, man.
Well, I mean, like, what's interesting about that too is like with Gira, it's very clear that, he's also tried to maintain relationships with people, and like that hasn't always gone well, like to the point of like, you know, persecution, in fact. But you know, there's an interesting thing to him kind of running the reunion game all the way up until a certain point and then blowing it up, right? Because like it's not them anymore. Like Thor Harris isn't involved or whatever the fuck.
Yeah,
and like
that's no more Thor. Yeah,
and that's kind of cool because I think there is room for him to kind of like almost say like, hey, I was doubting for a minute it was me, and like it started to become a band. And
is Norman Westberg? There are these extra life parallels, man. There's so like Psalm 0 is absolutely my Angels of Light. Everyone was like, when are you gonna just bring back the actual fucking thing? But right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
No, as someone who booked Psalm 0, I know.
Right? You're like, okay, this is cool. Could we?
I was like, why is KO Dot plus Charlie Looker playing in my room?
Right. It's just not. It's like, could we just do what was the actual thing? But what was I going to say? Oh fuck! I lost the train. Is Westberg still in the?
I don't know. I mean, I
actually don't think he is.
I don't think he is.
Whatever the last.
Glowing Man. Right.
Because I was like, I mean, I don't know.
One
Yeah.
after.
It's
Leaving Meaning.
Yeah, Leaving Meaning.
It's really crazy, like, because I'm just talking about how important Swans are to me, but it's like, I mean, I still think of them as reunion records, man, and I'm not even embarrassed to say, but I'm like, it's almost like, wow, I didn't even think about it. I haven't listened to any of the Swans records since like To Be Kind, I think,
which is like honestly. Fair. Like that's the
I think
one.
We would have dipped off after Glowing Man, which is the one right after.
And I don't really care for Glowing Man that much. I haven't heard the last one. I think like that's what I'm saying is I don't really give a shit mostly now. I saw them as well, and I think it was good.
It was very good. Yeah,
it was very good. It was very loud. But you know, I'm going to be real. I also just do not interface with that style of thing almost at all anymore. Like the last concert I went to was to see You Do Extra Life. And I do not like it when they are on a stage. I do not like it when they are above me.
Just music in general.
Yeah, I like it when someone's on the same plane as me, staring at me. I do not like people being on stages. It just doesn't. Anytime I could like accidentally be at a concert, I just don't do that. I saw Cure a few years ago play for like 2 hours and 45 minutes. That was sick. But you know, that's the Cure. But like Swans was a weird thing where it was so loud. Some people were asleep.
No shit.
No shit. Like there were guys on the back wall who just eyes closed for 35 fucking minutes.
That's funny. I mean, I don't know if you sure they weren't just posing as like, oh, I'm in such a trance.
I know. I think like they were like nodding.
Like, they were actually nodding off.
Because there's an amount of volume where like sounds are so indistinguishable that you're just like, I've been able to sleep in very, very loud like noise is playing in the car shit just because it's that loud. But it was weird. It was cool. There was a situation where their bassist had a like fucked up situation with his cab, and Raw's just palming feedback for like 10 minutes while they're trying to fix this, just rhythmically palming feedback to wait, which I liked a lot. But I mean,
showbiz, he knows how to fill up the space.
I don't like those records a lot now, but I will say it's probably somewhat different than you. Because I got all those records in me within the same 5-6 year span, I don't spend a lot of time with any of this anymore. I don't spend a lot of time with the 80s stuff at all anymore. I probably throw in the Angels of Light shit more than anything just because I'm like a woman. And
nice.
That's like a perfectly normal thing to do while I'm cooking is listen to Angels of Light.
Yes, I would say so. Yeah.
But I don't, I'm not gonna. I don't know. There's a thing where the directness of it, you're totally right, in opposition to a lot of those no wave fools. The directness does have that sort of like, damn, it's so cool that he's like using I statements or you statements, and he's just you're in this situation.
You're just like implicated.
Pig. And there's kind of like a weird like dom thing
for
going
sure.
on. Yeah, for sure. Like imagining just like a kind of club where this is playing is tough.
Yeah. I mean, it's
my
very
mom
like,
used to strip to Ministry, and like that.
Oh, nice.
Is demonic to me.
Yeah. Ministry I can't listen to anymore because it makes me want to just make mistakes and shit. Like it's like bad. Like it's actually like trigger, like, you know what I mean?
Or something.
like this, what's that?
It's like KMFDM or something.
Yeah. I mean, like putting on like Burning Inside on the train. I'm like, I want to just, it's bad. But like, but fucking, yeah, I don't know, Swan. I mean, with some of the shit about the human suffering, though, like it is a lot of those lyrics, like especially at the early stuff where it's just there's a thing of like nowadays. I feel like, or maybe it's not over, but like I feel like this thing of just like, you know, you're a slave, get on your knees, like you know all this stuff, like you're nothing, you're my property, like this shit. I feel like nowadays you would be forced a little more to be like, well, are you saying this is good or are you saying this is bad? Are you know, like I feel like in that era, there's more of a vibe of like I'm presenting this and rendering it in this sort of like neutral way of like this is just how things are. Power is unavoidable, abuse is unavoidable. This more fatalistic, you know.
I feel like that's true generally speaking. I feel like with a band like Swans, I have a hard time imagining anyone listening to that, even back in the day, and thinking there's any ambiguity there, frankly.
I'm of the same opinion that it seems almost, and maybe you're right that like someone encounters in like 1983, 1984, like this loud of a performance and these things being said and just goes like, Jesus fucking Christ, like what does this man want from me?
Yeah.
But like if that's a guy you can talk to after the show, which undeniably we know could happen at that time, I think you kind of know that guy is just like, oh, I'm doing this because it's bad. It's like Peter Sotos rules. It's just like it's amazing to me when people think like, oh yeah, this is a guy who likes this. I'm like, that's not really what's going on.
I don't think that Gira actually as a guy likes this. I mean, but that is more just sort of knowing about him as a guy enough to know that he's like not a sadistic fucking freak.
No, but I even just mean that there's an amount of like, yes, it's direct, but there's like kayfabe to it, right? Like he has a little bit of a kind of bravado that says like, oh, like I'm putting on like I'm saying these things that are not like that I think of them as categorically this way.
Right. No, yeah. Like it's on some like if you actually like why would you render it so clearly and so extreme and it with such extremity if you weren't like if you weren't critical of it on some.
But maybe you're right. I mean, maybe there are people who would have just been like, damn, like what the fuck is this? But I think that's mostly a Sonic thing.
Maybe maybe
people who would think that are also people who wouldn't be encountering the band in the first place early on.
Yeah.
So,
maybe I should say it more like this, that that it seems like at that time it would be more understood. There would be more of a good faith assumption that he's critical of this kind of cruelty and sadism without him needing to say, you know, like why does it have to be this way? You know what I mean? Like you could just render it and it's just render the horror and have people be like, right, we figure probably that you are being critical of this and not celebrating,
Well, and it's interesting to me though, because like, not to be the person that I was when I was 18 or something, but to like kind of cast myself back into like a more woke mindset if I can. There is a sense of like, yeah, that's also because like Swans exists. It's because like, sure there are like losers who are like, wow, I can't believe White House says all this stuff. They're evil. But like, there's a lot of people who are mostly just like, damn, White House did that. And so like, it's weird that there's this guy who tonight thinks they should like more or less be like a shittier version of White House doing the same thing. And that happens within the context of something like Swans as well, where it's like, part of it is also like, okay, what is your impetus to do this again? What is your impetus to like be that guy again? Like while I don't think that stuff should be forbidden or whatever else, there is a sense of like, oh, like you kind of do have to think of something else. And Michael Gira is sort of just a guy. If you read like the fiction, if you read like The Consumer or like whatever else, he's far from the first human being to think these thoughts, but he's the first in his corner of underground music to communicate these things in this way. And there is a sort of like, if you're the fourth guy to say that shit, you're corny as shit.
Yeah. He's coming out of he's coming out of Genet though a little bit, or Burroughs. Yeah. Are the new Swans? I haven't even checked out the recent. I mean, since I haven't checked out the recent Swans records, is there new lyrical stuff or perspective stuff? I mean, is there like?
I did like when he fucking did the shit about Haiti, the Haitian Revolution on To Be Kind. That's pretty funny, especially if you're like on some like raping a slave is problematic shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Screaming Toussaint Louverture like horses. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, that was cool. That Haitian Revolution. I remember that. Isn't that on the Seer or no? That's on.
It's on To Be Kind. Yeah,
it's on To Be Kind. Yeah.
Song called Bring the Sun. That's the only thing he couldn't bring in the studio with him is the horses. He wanted to bring the horses inside the studio, and they were like, "Yeah, you can't fucking do that."
It's just like you're not Herzog, dude. You can't bring them in.
Now I'm imagining like a Herzog Kinski ass relationship between him and Jarboe trying to.
Which is surely
because like
a more extreme version of what that relationship actually was.
Well, because I'm thinking about the thing where it's like Kinski talking shit on Herzog and Herzog's being asked about it, and he's like, "Yeah, I helped him with that. Like I had a Roget's thesaurus out trying to help him write that letter about how awful I am."
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
it's really sick.
There's fucking oh man, it's like how much do I put someone on blast? I was in a studio with someone, and they were playing me a record that was some kind of collaboration between Jarboe and Phil Anselmo.
Oh, I haven't listened to it, but I've heard about this.
It was. I was with someone who worked on the record. I don't want to put the fucking, but it was someone who worked on the record, so we were listening to it like half mixed or like some shit. It's one of the funniest things I've ever heard, ever, vocally. I mean, Phil Anselmo's shit on that is just, like, it's just him doing, like, slam poetry, like, spoken word.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a very simple question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about Lulu?
I have not checked it out.
Okay.
Is that, I literally haven't listened.
That's the only Metallica I've ever liked in my life.
Dude, fuck off, man.
I know, it's the word.
That's one of the worst things I've ever heard you say, man. Do you
know? And I've like really edged up on some stuff in this exact conversation.
Do you really feel that way? Nobody.
Yeah, I've never fucked with Metallica. It's like
I don't get it.
It's the worst. Yeah,
you don't fuck with Metallica either.
No. I'm saying I don't get his take.
Yeah.
I could come around on Lulu potentially, but like I don't get how he doesn't like any early Metallica.
Okay, well I'll say this, Xylon. You're not liking Metallica. Other than Lulu, let's just say that means you don't like Metallica. We'll put it in that. We'll make it. Yeah, we'll make that it's not about you liking Lulu. It's about you never really into Metallica. I much prefer that. I much prefer that than the like indie rock guy.
No, I understand.
Who like in college was like, I've been getting into metal, man, and it's like this condescending, like, yeah, sometimes low IQ shit is better, like I fucking resent and hate.
No,
so
as you should,
it's actually that like in a lot of ways, I've realized that like Metallica is just not stupid enough for me. Like I love like Sacred Reich, like that shit like really rules.
Okay.
I like stupider thrash. And
well,
kind of like
I'm way more a Megadeth guy than a Metallica guy, 1,000,000%. But I assume you don't like. If you like, I mean, they're less dumb than Metallica, so I assume I assume you don't fuck with Megadeth either.
Yeah, I'm not a big Megadeth guy. It's like it all passed me. It was like never the thing. I wasn't into metal as a kid, and then other than new metal, and then
right.
And then it's I do like Pantera.
Hell yeah.
For sure.
Okay, so that's dumber, right? Okay, so that's dumber than
We talk,
Metallica.
it's like a specific kind of dumber because we talk about this. It's like Pantera is like American Ramstein.
Yeah.
Like or like Leibach.
Okay.
It's like it has this Wagnerian element
No,
that's
for
like
sure.
insane.
Like Walk
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah, Walk is
Like,
just
my God.
Rise
Dude.
It's so
Yeah. Walk is like a really amazing piece of American music. I mean,
it's
that
so
is
good.
that
Oh.
is that is like that was I saw someone tweet like a black metal appreciator said like he said you don't have to know anything about Phil Anselmo's attitudes or views. That riff before the drums kick in is the most racist sounding fucking riff I've ever heard. He was just like, you don't even need the. I mean, you just down. He's just like, I'm leaving this bar. I'm not welcome here. This man is.
No, yeah,
Like,
for sure.
it's just
It's really it's incredible music, and like I love like Surf Nicaragua by Sacred Reich. Like I love like and like I'm a big like Napalm Death fan. Like I like stupid.
Well, but is Napalm Death stupid? I don't know.
I think it's stupid in the way that it's
Different way.
it's all different shit. Cause like I like black metal. You and I mean that's back to like I mean that's a useful thing to talk about in the like conversation of morality or whatever. Is like there's a lot of this stuff where more or less you switch over into like, oh, like is what I want this to be, like how serious is someone? Because like the funny thing is a lot of black metal losers hate the fact, which is that like those guys were nerds who got in over their heads
Right.
and killed each other, but were like functionally like mall goths.
Right.
And they were in that it got really serious because it is actually that simple. You can kill each other.
Right.
Like that's a possible thing to do. But it isn't, oh, these guys are hard and serious. Like they're not criminals until like that exact moment.
Yeah. No. In over their head is a very that's an interesting phrase to use for that.
But like that's also happening with like rap. Like that's some of these kids are like getting in over their head, and then some of them aren't. Like there's
Tupac definitely seemed like a soft theater kid who got in over his head, but I don't know.
You mean the man with 3 Black Panthers in his family lineage? Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, talk about a Fed. Ask James
a Fed
about Tupac.
I forgot I sent you.
Yeah, ask James Elroy what he thinks of Tupac.
Tupac was a Fed too.
I mean, his stepfather, his mother, and Asada are all Black Panthers.
What were the Black Panthers Feds? I thought they were attacked by the Feds. So you mean they're like
specifically? I actually haven't looked into
I would never doubt if you're looking at Eldritch Cleaver onward, like Soul on Ice Panthers, and how that is actually taken away from like what Huey Newton is originally trying to do. Which like Eldritch Cleaver, you want to talk about a fucking guy? Eldritch Cleaver is like, yeah, rape is a revolutionary act.
Yeah, Soul on Ice is a difficult read.
That
is hard. I'm looking at it right now. It's on the shelf next to Bataille. But it's,
Eldritch Cleaver fucking sucks. But like that shit is like, yeah, I mean, if you're not a Fed, like you virtually are. Like, what are you doing?
Just by undermining the interests of your own people that you're supposedly right.
But also, like, yeah, I mean, if you tell me that the most popular rapper of the '90s has familial lineage to 3 Black Panthers, I will tell you that there is something weird going on.
Yeah. I feel that. It's something to think about. A lot of Feds. It's funny. You don't want to talk. You don't want to. You're like, I don't want to call everyone Feds, but
you bring up the Fed shit.
There's so much stuff that's fun. Like it is just like, I mean, and I like that stuff. It's interesting. I think what's more interesting is to consider like what is. I mean, you bring up Genet, right? And like actually, Will just read Miracle of the Rose. Yeah. I just lent it to him. And is going to read one of my copies of Our Lady of the Flowers.
That's the one, dude.
Of course, it's the fucking one. It's the one. But like that shit is not to say that Genet forms my morality, because like he is a far more twisted individual than I like ever could dream of being, and like would not venture into a lot of those areas, but will say avid supporter of the Black Panthers.
Was he? Genet fucked with the Panthers.
Very much so. But like that sort of sense where you're like reading these books and he's just like, yeah, there's this guy who's going to be fucking hanged. Love him to death. One of my favorite guys. And like, wish I could hang out with him. Wish I just read about him in the news clippings and I just miss him. I love him. Like that's who Janae is. And like, there is an amount of fascination that we all have with that. But there's also this fact that like comes up a lot of noise where people will go like, oh, don't you know that guy's like a real life, like bad person? And I'm like, yeah, aren't you curious about like if the worst person in the world made music? Like, why would you not be curious about that?
Oh, well, certainly. I mean, of course.
And it's just, it's so fucking insane to me to imagine like, oh, you know what should exist is a bunch of people who like all have the same opinions.
Well, no, of course. I mean, I've said, Anthony Braxton said the history of music is not the history of nice guys. I mean, that's fucking, I mean, it's just very simple. But,
right. When it's funny, I mean, like watching him get absolutely railroaded at this point is insane.
Who, Braxton?
Like, yeah, just like, I mean, he does interviews where he's like, yeah, I don't love any of this shit. Some of my favorite musicians of all time are like old white guys. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Well, yeah, he went MAGA, or like, yeah, he sort of went anti-woke to the point where he's like actually kind of into Trump and shit. Yeah, he took it out.
But people can't process it.
I don't know if he's getting railroaded for it though. I mean, they're honoring him at a gala at Roulette this week. I mean, I think
without honoring him, right? Like that's the thing. Like if you're gonna,
you mean without honoring those parts of him, or
that's the whole part of it to me is like, how can you be like, oh, we care about what like Black elders have to say,
right? But they're edit out the shit that doesn't fit the narrative.
Yeah, and like if you wanna honor Samuel Delaney, let him talk for an hour.
Right.
I'm just saying, like these are the people that you like until you don't like them, and like that's what it is.
That's a funny. You bring up Samuel Delaney because I saw him speak. There was this like, I guess a panel you could say at like Cooper Union that was with it was with M. Lamar, Bell Hooks, Samuel Delaney. This was like heavy duty, and a fourth person whose name I don't remember, but probably it was a cat of some kind. And the topic was transgressive sexuality.
Oh boy, what Sammy said.
the only, I don't remember all the details, but Delaney was the only person who actually said anything that made anyone uncomfortable. And I say all due respect.
Yeah.
And this is all due respect to Lamar, because like I love him and his work to the end of the fucking earth. But the rest of the thing was like basically talking about stuff that was transgressive 50 years ago, like just being gay or whatever, Whereas like Delaney was getting into some uncomfortable shit, that was like, it was at least uncomfortable enough and people just weren't really biting. They were just like letting it go. So anyway, yeah.
And that's exactly kind of where I'm at, is it's like what happens here is that Delaney, because like, there's only so many like Black sci-fi authors from a very specific time. Like Ishmael Reed is also like talked about in like similar circles. They get kind of pulled into like NPR areas or whatever else. But like they skirt around all of this stuff. And like my whole thing is like being like specifically non-racist, and like I believe a real way is you should like let all of these fucking people talk. Yeah. And like express the fact that it's not a monolith and express the ways in which they feel about things differently. But there is this weird thing of, watching any of how people imagine they would want to interact with music, especially because I think there's a lot of like small jealousy that allows for wanting to tear other people down, which is crazy because like, I know you and I disagree with this at times, but no one is making any fucking money. So it is insane to be jealous of anyone. Like there's just not enough money here for
I don't know, man. You're not in New York, dude. People are making money selling bullshit and they should have their careers taken away.
Live in New York. But then they have to live in New York.
Then they have to, have to, yeah.
I mean, if you can make that kind of money and then live here, where you can get a house for $300,000 a year or less, $300,000 or less, great. But
yeah.
No, in New York, it's like to become a landowner.
Right, it's going back into your lifestyle, yeah.
Yeah, and so like, I mean, I don't believe that that's real, but that should be freeing. That should stop all of you from being jealous of each other or whatever else. And there does become this thing where like with any of it, there is just a question of like, oh, what do you mean by like bad? like I would be much more interested in someone just saying like, oh, I don't really like these songs, because that's how I feel about most songs.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm entirely uninterested in someone's music is the mode for most things, period.
Right.
And that that's where you get the like right woke shit, where everyone is just like, nowadays you have this sort of like conservative reaction to PC shit that ends up becoming its own mirror image of like political correctness, where you cry about censorship so much, but like in reality, most people just don't think about you at all.
Right. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You guys are all mistaking what is ultimately like indifference for malice.
Right. You're saying the woke right is people crying about being moralistic about cancel culture. Is that?
Yeah. And it's
idea?
like, more than anything, what you would want to do is you would want to say like, hey, this is a really cool song about some shit I hope you don't do for real in your life, but also like, here's how you could mix these drums better. Like, that's what it should be. Ultimately.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if this is part of woke right, but maybe it's on the same topic. I've been really cringing lately about people who seem to be on some like hip right or you know, sort of dime square-ish kind of vibe of like really pushing some Death in June shit, but it's like the opposite of canceling them for being right wing. It's like they're into it just because it's like right wing and canceled. It's like just on some like,
for sure,
they just love it because it's just like this free speech statement and shit. And I'm like, I was into that before it was even a thing that would offend anyone. So I'm just like into the songs, and like it's just like some poser shit to just be like, be like, look at how much I'm uncanceling them. It's like you're doing the same thing. You're obsessed with the same thing. You know?
When it makes all of the MAGA Civil War stuff super funny, because if you do become a like reactionary, like pro Boyd, pro fucking Death in June, and like you said, we wouldn't go here, but like then you're like, you know, these people love playing in Israel. These people love Israel.
Oh
yeah.
Like Death in June is like loves Israel.
Of course.
Like, you know, and of course, literally, of course, but of this course.
Well, sure. I mean, it's like someone's also said on Twitter. What was it? It was the racist community is actually the most inclusive community. They'll accept anyone as long as they're racist. I mean, that's, you know, it's just basically like, yeah.
I mean, and that brings me to like a weird thing of wondering like even kind of what these standards are elsewhere. Like I wonder even just like how are they like canceling people in China? Is that happening?
Yeah, but not in a way that we could even comprehend. They're just Black Mirror, like deleting your life because you like.
Yeah, but I want the nitty gritty on that. Like I want it to go deeper, because like that's the thing that's interesting to me within any of these conversations is, you know, I remember when Gucci Mane got out and it was like, yeah, that guy pushed a prostitute out of a moving vehicle. He's been in and out of prison multiple times. Like he's surely going to just go back to prison before long. Yeah. And then he didn't. And then everyone was like, yeah, that guy's a clone.
Wait, how do you mean they
like literally like there's probably about 1 million TikToks, and there's surely way more tweets from the last 10 years of just people being like, yeah, Gucci Mane, he's a clone. That's not the same man.
They because they just want him to be a violent criminal.
Because they do not believe in redemption.
Right.
And Children of God, a record by Swans, believes in redemption.
Yes.
Like,
Yes. No.
And that's like, and that's where like I may be like too strong about this stuff, but like I do honestly believe like it goes so much deeper than just being like, no, I think that guy's actually a good person. It's like, no. Like, what if they're a bad person and they want to be a different person? Like if you're choosing not to like fucking slaughter someone on spot for whatever it is that you've perceived them to do, then like what is their purchase in life other than to like you to accept the fact that they want to change?
Yeah, right.
And like that is like legitimately like a Christian value that exists in the world for a reason and should be like more, you know, what you have now. And it is the reason to be upset with the penal, like with the woke shit, but it's the reason to be upset with any of it, is that you have a penal system, but with no road to redemption for anyone.
Yeah.
Other than for people to kind of just be like, oh, I'm going to live it down. And so like the only way you can do the Death in June is cool now thing is to be like, well, no, it's cool for being shitty. The reality is that most Death in June stuff, like you could like forget that it's racist.
Well, yeah, I mean, I
like,
did.
Like, literally, it's
I
like,
did
so many times it's not.
I did for years. Yeah. Audrey's killing it in the comments. Are you guys reading the comments? She says, I saw a comment on a Death in June Last FM page once that was like, I want to support their message, but the music sucks.
Yeah. It's like the classic. It's like, oh, I was really a big fan of all of his racism. I didn't know he was in the Smiths.
Right.
And it's like, that's real shit though, because like, I mean, that's
right,
true.
Separating the art from the artist, but like the other way.
In the other direction. Yeah. I mean, no, my grandfather was like, oh, this Kanye guy's really got some interesting things to say. Should I listen to any of his music? And I was like, no. Like, please do not.
I liked him as this neurotic, guilt-racked 24-year-old who was just like, hipping people to like the Sierra Leone like diamond trade and just being, like this really morally, like he had this neurotic emo quality where he like is.
That's the most amazing.
It's never changed.
It's never changed. Like,
it's never changed. Yeah, no.
He's in the black leather Klan uniform, being like he's still talking about the injustices brought upon his people, African Americans.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's, once again, if people are really interested in anything, and like, this is not for Will Samson to endorse, this is for me to endorse personally. Go listen to like some interviews with James Pogue right now. Go listen to James Pogue talk to anyone, even Ezra Klein, who's a piece of shit. Like there's guys out there who are willing to talk about like actual things that are going on. And the reality is that like, oh, like Kanye is actually making like the same argument like JD Vance is or whatever else. It's just like a heritage American argument. It's like, yeah, there's been black people here for 400 years. America's not just an idea, it's a people. Like it's crazy shit to hear.
Right.
From the other direction, but it's like it is the same thing to be like, oh, like we have an intertwined destiny and we're here.
Yeah.
It's nuts because like people really imagine that like Kanye is on some like, oh, I fucking hate. Kanye doesn't hate anyone. Like that's literally not happening. It doesn't appear that way. If you did not care about these symbols, he would stop immediately. Like he just doesn't. And it's insane to have a diamond encrusted swastika.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Yeah. I mean, you
so,
want to talk about an art fuck guy. I mean, that guy is just like living on the, I mean, but he's also kind of a master production wise.
No, he absolutely is.
He's both. He's got the craft and
he's the greatest artist of all time. Is what he is. Like
all time. No, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, and this is the thing that like people.
We disagree on this, but he sincerely does think.
Yeah, I really do believe that. Like,
did you say of our time or
no, of all time? I do like. I'm talking about like the collected works of Kanye West for the last 30 years. That's Chapel. Like that's in my mind how this works.
That is objectively false.
I understand.
There is such a thing. There is such a thing as fact.
But then that's the thing. That's what's so interesting, though, right? Is like every other argument that one would have is so platitudinal. Because like if you were trying to make the argument for like the Sistine Chapel, or you're trying to make the argument for Da Vinci, like what are we talking about?
I mean, I don't know, late Beethoven, anything.
But that's what you mean, right? Is like so you mean this extremely mediated thing that like not only do I not agree with you, but like has almost no purchase in the world, whether I agree whether it should or not.
Okay.
Does not have purchase in the world. And like, it's perfectly fine, but like you are now involved in a conversation where like if I take my annoying polemic out of it, like now you and everyone else who agrees about what art means and what the best of it is free to disagree with no consensus about what is the best. So you can say what's objective fact or not, but like you will not find enough people to have a consensus over the fact of late Beethoven being the answer.
Understood. But I mean, the only thing that's objective is that Kanye is not the greatest music ever. It's not a fact. It's not a fact that Beethoven 131 is. It's just a fact that Kanye.
You said artist and not musician, though.
I did, and I just
which
mean
is an important part.
Yeah, I don't even mean musically. Like I do mean like something much larger than that. And it's like perfectly reasonable that people wouldn't agree. It's also, I mean, of course, it's non-falsifiable, right?
Yes.
But like at the same time, we're talking Swans, and it's like pound for pound, I love Michael Gira, just like Kanye wipes the floor. Just out of this world wipes the floor. And it's like
I don't think so.
Yeah,
But no. But I don't think that Swans are the greatest music of all time anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not so much of a like I do think that there's like objectively good, better, and best in art, but I don't claim to have the actual finger on the pulse of what that is in every case, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a hard thing to. I think that's like part of what I am interested in addling is that there is a sense of hierarchy in which like people will make the appeal to that striation of like specifically like things are superlative, things are better than others, but then of course that consensus is like not only somewhat impossible, and this isn't like a layman's like, oh, I don't know, man, like all art is subjective. But I mean, like if I were to actually watch what this culture at base worships, it's like very, very, it's very low engagement forms of like classical art up and through like Van Gogh and then like potentially Dali and Picasso, where you're having this like sort of like, and then for them you're getting these like continual like celebrity based like moratoriums over the last 100 years where like tearing them down into being men and like being womanizers or whatever the fuck else. And it becomes this like weird thing where like the stuff that I'm interested in with Kanye has more to do with like public spectacle, the ability to like do the things that he is able to do on the scale he is able to do them. The touring where there's like mountains inside of fucking stadiums is like, music aside, something like selling that swastika shirt exists within the youth. Like that's true.
Yeah.
To me. Like saying, hey, I'm on the Super Bowl. I'm getting my teeth done right now.
Yeah.
Please go to my website, and the only shirt that's on the website is
so
a swastika shirt. He's like legitimately crazier than almost anything that's ever happened.
No. It's the craziest fucking thing in the world. It's so fucking out. It's so fucking out.
That sentence exists as the superlative of what we mean.
Yeah.
Like that sentence is the objective metric of that makes me believe something was possible that nothing else does.
Yeah.
That like, you know, other, you know, Starry Night is just like a very cool painting. It's a very sick painting.
I don't think Starry Night's the deepest thing ever, so I don't, you know.
No, for sure. No, for sure.
I mean, if you want to say Yeezus is deeper than Starry Night, that doesn't enrage me.
Sure,
not an enraging, you know. But Yeezus is very Extra Life. I would say some of the lyrics are like I relate to a lot. That shit about the croissants. I like. He has a lot of lines that I like.
Hell yes, sure.
Like when I heard that. Okay. I mean, that was like right after I broke up Extra Life. I was like, I fucked up, dude. You can't do the croissants in Psalm 0, man. I like fucking miss, you know.
Yo. Also, just you describing things as very Extra Life. Do you describe things as Psalm 0 or Extra Life as like a 0 or 1 on the binary?
I don't know. Some things just clearly rate, you know. I don't know. I mean, Psalm 0. Yeah, not musically with Psalm 0. There's like vibe-wise some shit. I don't know.
I mean, I will say like, okay, like there are moments where like I don't like the last record as much as I like Secular Works 2. And that's like partially because like Secular Works 2 like really was just an incredible moment of like, it's back. Like we're back at it. Like, but Wormy Weekend is like a crazy fucking, like you have now split open the possibilities for me of like what can happen here. And like that is a lot of what I care about. Like seeing you do that live, but also hearing it on the record. Like Wormy Weekend makes me feel like other things are possible than what I thought was, you know, just in the diet.
Yeah, Children of God's type.
This
can happen now. Yeah. Well, that's what has to. Yeah, that's what has to happen. Yeah, the whole point of Secular Works Volume 2 is like we're so back. But now it's like, yeah, maybe some shit could be like not as good, but elements are better or more generative of new things. Anyway, but yeah, we'll talk. I talk about myself plenty on this channel, but I think that's a good way to wrap up, though, man. You know, we got like 2 hours here. Friends. friends, a lot of great things were said. In
Some
fact,
of the greatest you could say.
yeah, some of the greatest things were
greatest thing.
said.
I am sorry
passive-
about some of the greatest
Dude.
things that were said.
Hey, passive voice. The things were said. You know, Palestinians were bombed. We
Oh.
don't know. Things just were said.
Okay.
So yes, thank you for coming
Thank
by.
you, Charlie.
It's I love talking with you guys. You're so
It's so good to hear from you.
you're so fucking smart and fun, and people love you guys. This was like people were like, oh shit, and everyone who's listening, there's 5 more episodes lined up for like a little season. This shit is good. The rest of the season is a very, very good. You're not gonna be bummed about what's coming up.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Any final things to like? I know this isn't really your style, either of you guys, but like plugging stuff. I think that's a good thing to do. Anything to keep a lookout for. I mean,
we're both around.
Yeah.
You tagged us and stuff, so like
You can find us online.
Yeah. Find them online. I mean, it's right because like okay, so yeah, Will. I mean, you write this thing for Apocalypse Confidential. People check out Apocalypse Confidential. They're going to be publishing Will's essay.
I do have one last thing I would like to say about Swans real quick.
Oh, please. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I did like a listen through of everything up to Great Annihilator to prepare for this, and I realized when I got to Burning World, which is a record I have a lot of affection for. I want to say.
Yeah.
I had not realized before now that that's just a 10,000 Maniacs record, and that was an incredible realization.
Yeah,
that's all I wanted to say.
It really blew my mind when you told me that.
That's yeah, I had this thought of like this is basically a something record, and 10,000 Maniacs did not come to mind, and that is so dead on. Like that's
what it
like,
is. And I was like,
yup. I was like 1990. Yeah, this is 89. Yes, yeah, 100, 10,000%. Yeah.
So I mean, Evan Lipson and I are writing an essay about the concept of the hick lib. The sort of like, you know what
he's shown me something. It's good shit
for sure.
I know, yeah.
We're working on that, talking about Carter and Clinton and everything that went wrong since, and that's been cool. I'm working on music all the time. I run a label again called Additions on Relent. I'm around. I'm doing stuff. I'm making music, and then I will at some point, hopefully in the next year or two, be going on a speaking tour with Jack Wright, which like is very. He's not. He doesn't do this. He reads stuff all day. He gets the transcripts of fucking podcasts so he can listen to Walter Kern. He can just read Walter Kern and Matt Taibbi talk.
And he just reads that.
He just reads the transcripts of podcasts. It's absolutely diabolical. It's so cool. I love him so fucking much.
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Wright's one of my favorite people in the world, and I would be incredibly honored for him and I to get around and just run our mouths in front of people like this, but worse. And there's no.
I should try to get him on the show, but I should read up. I should learn more about his stuff.
You should, He has a book on free improvisation called The Free Musics, and then he has a book called Shaky Ground that I would recommend to anyone in your Discord or otherwise to really check out. It's
okay, Jack Wright. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. On the topic of the hick lib, I think that I've seen some. There was some Kamal it out shit of like during the election where they were trying to. I felt like they were trying to push
like hats.
They were trying to push like an urban hick lib that's almost like a Guido lib kind of like, you know what I mean, like the same kind of vibe of like
you're describing the entirety of Chapo Trap House's fandom.
Is that the vibe?
This is very true. I've lived with some of them.
These are
Guido lib, yeah.
These are terrible people.
Yeah, it's like this vibe of like, I don't like toxic masculinity either, bro. It's like this kind of like
the worst version of that is like, and this is probably just most of it, just like nerdy guys LARPing is that.
Yeah.
Right. It's like even worse, yeah. But anyway, I'll be interested to check out the hick lib essay and I'll look deeper into Jack Wright. Word. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Peace and blessings. I'll check you guys out soon. Thanks for everyone for listening.